Before you sleep tonight, there is something you must understand. It is not a casual observation, nor a fleeting whisper meant to dissolve with the drifting tides of your dreams. It is a revelation that once grasped, cannot be undone. A threshold you cross where there is no returning to the simplicity of not knowing. Every life has these hidden moments, silent doorways, disguised as ordinary hours that suddenly open onto something vast and unrelenting. And this one, tonight, is such a doorway. The very act of closing your eyes and surrendering to sleep is a miniature rehearsal of death, a temporary yielding of control, a trust in the unseen to hold you while you dissolve into silence. But before you step into that nightly oblivion, you should know that what you carry into sleep becomes the architecture of your tomorrow. Your thoughts, your worries, your quiet hopes, all of them, do not disappear into the shadows, but seep into the fabric of your unconscious, where they build structures that will greet you upon waking. This is the first truth. The day does not begin with sunrise. It begins with what you plant in the soil of your mind before you surrender to sleep. When people imagine life-changing realizations, they often expect thunder, lightning, a shattering moment where the sky itself seems to split open. But the most dangerous and the most liberating revelations rarely arrive so dramatically. They arrive in the stillness, like a breath you didn't notice until it deepened. They arrive in the quiet realization that everything you think, everything you feel, everything you choose is already carving a path. And that path is what the past has no door back into itself. Every word you spoke today has already been sewn into the tapestry of eternity. Every action you took has already rippled outward in directions you will never be able to trace. There is no erasing the ink, only choosing which brushstrokes will follow. Before you sleep tonight, understand this. That phrase carries the weight of urgency, for there is no comfort in pretending you have endless time. Sleep is not only rest, it is an invitation to see how much of life you are squandering on what does not matter. You lie down at night, often numbed by repetition, convinced tomorrow will look the same as today. But the truth is that no tomorrow has ever been the same. The stream of existence flows in one direction, and with each passing second, you are already stepping into a future that has never existed before. The comfort of sameness is an illusion. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a vast ocean at dusk. The sky is aflame with colors that cannot be named, and the tide is pulling outward. You hold in your hand a small stone, the decisions of today. When you cast it into the water, it sinks, and its ripples extend far beyond your sight. You cannot retrieve the stone. You cannot erase the ripples. That is what every day is. That is what every thought, every hesitation, every word spoken to yourself or another truly is. Before you sleep tonight, you must understand that nothing you do is without consequence. And yet, paradoxically, that awareness does not chain you, it liberates you. Because if every thought matters, if every choice builds reality, then this very moment is the most powerful one you will ever hold. There is a silent arrogance humans often carry, the belief that awareness is optional, that clarity can be postponed. Tomorrow, they say, I will change. Tomorrow, I will decide differently. Tomorrow, I will wake with a new resolve. But tomorrow does not belong to you. It never has. All you own is this present breath, this heartbeat, this fragile awareness hovering on the threshold of sleep. And if you let this moment pass unclaimed, you surrender your life to inertia, to unconscious drift. That is the danger. That is why there is no going back once you truly understand. Life is not a straight line but a spiral staircase, winding upward or downward depending on the quality of your thoughts and actions. Each day is another step, invisible as you take it, but cumulative, determining the view you will eventually behold. If you have been sleepwalking through your days, tonight is the moment to awaken. For the staircase you are building will not wait. It rises or falls without your permission. Before you close your eyes tonight, ask yourself not what the world did to you today, but what seeds you planted in the soil of your own becoming. There is something cosmic about this awareness, though it is rooted in the most practical truth. Every civilization, every philosophy, every spiritual teaching whispers it in its own way. The mind is the architect of reality. Thoughts are not idle flickers, they are the raw materials of existence. Once you truly grasp this, you can no longer live carelessly. To continue as before would be like knowingly walking blindfolded across a narrow bridge above an abyss. You cannot unknow what has been revealed. That is why there is no going back. Perhaps you feel a shiver at this realization. a sense of both awe and fear that is natural. For most of life, we are comforted by the illusion that our days are expendable, that our thoughts are harmless, that our sleep is nothing more than a nightly pause. But once you see through the veil, once you understand that every moment is pregnant with eternity, sleep itself becomes sacred. It becomes a ritual in which you choose what to carry into the temple of your unconscious, knowing it will greet you on the other side. So tonight, as your body grows heavy and your mind drifts, pause before you surrender. Do not let the day slip into shadow without naming what you will carry forward. Do not leave the gates of sleep unguarded. Understand this: your life is not waiting for tomorrow to begin. It is unfolding now, in this very breath, in this very thought. And once you see this, once you understand that sleep is not an ending, but a continuation of creation, you will never again dismiss the power of the present moment. This is the doorway. This is the point of no return. Before you sleep tonight, know this truth: your thoughts are architects, your choices are eternal, and your awareness is the only compass you will ever truly possess. To ignore this is to live as if blind. To embrace it is to step into a life of unrelenting clarity. And once you have seen clearly, there is no going back. The phrase "before you sleep tonight," understand this: no going back is not simply an invitation to reflect. It is a commandment of consciousness, a call to confront the architecture beneath the surface of life itself. To truly grasp it, we must step into the core themes it whispers, for these are not small ideas. They are vast truths that shape how every second of existence unfolds. The first theme is the irreversibility of time. Human beings often treat time as though it were elastic, as though wasted hours could be reclaimed, as though apologies and corrections could erase what has been done. Yet reality does not bend backward. Once a word is spoken, it cannot be unheard. Once a choice is made, it carves a path that ripples outward, colliding with countless other paths. Time is not a river you may swim against. It is a current that only flows forward. And so, the very heart of no going back is not a threat, but a law of existence. It is the recognition that your life is a one-way spiral, and therefore, every moment must be inhabited with the awareness it deserves. Connected to this is the second theme: the power of thought as the seed of reality. Every civilization has hinted at this truth, cloaked in different languages: karma, cause and effect, sowing and reaping, manifestation. It is all one principle. Your inner world precedes your outer world. Before events take shape in the material dimension, they in the invisible realm of imagination, belief, and thought. What you allow to occupy your mind before you drift into the stillness of sleep does not evaporate. It takes root in the unconscious and blossoms into patterns that will color your days. Thoughts are builders. They draft the blueprint of your future while you are unaware. To fall asleep in despair is to hand despair the brush to paint tomorrow. To fall asleep with intention is to begin sculpting a new reality. The third theme is the sacredness of transitions. Sleep, so ordinary in its repetition, is perhaps one of the most mystical of human experiences. It is a daily death and resurrection. You release consciousness, enter the shadows, traverse the dreamscape, and then awaken renewed or burdened, depending on what you carried in. This transition is not neutral, it is charged. And yet, how often do people rush into it with no awareness, clutching their phones, drowning in noise, collapsing into unconsciousness, as though it were merely another chore? To live this way is to discard one of the most powerful gateways of transformation. To honor sleep as a sacred threshold is to reclaim the hidden architecture of your destiny. Another theme is the confrontation with self-responsibility. When you grasp that there is no going back, that every thought and action is already building the architecture of your tomorrow, you can no longer blame circumstance or others. The mind seeks scapegoats because to take full responsibility is terrifying. Yet this is where true freedom lies. Responsibility is not a burden, it is sovereignty. To understand that you are the designer of your experience is to understand that your power has never been outside of you. The external world is only a reflection, a mirror showing you what your inner state has constructed. Before you sleep tonight, you are called to see this, that your life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. A fifth theme emerges, woven through the others: the illusion of permanence. Human beings cling desperately to permanence: relationships, possessions, identities, even their own self-image. But permanence is a myth. All that exists is transition, becoming, flux. This is why there is no going back, because nothing ever stands still. Every moment is already dissolving into the next. Every relationship is either evolving or eroding. Every dream is either being nourished or abandoned. To grasp this is to see clearly that life is not about holding, but about flowing. The sooner one embraces impermanence, the sooner one begins to live with authenticity. But these themes are not abstract ideals floating in the air. They are practical forces. They shape how you speak to your loved ones, how you choose your habits, how you approach your dreams. To dismiss them as poetic reflections would be to miss the point entirely. What you understand before sleep tonight will decide who you wake as tomorrow. It is not symbolic, it is literal. To crystallize the message, imagine again the moment before sleep. Your body lies still, yet your mind is a garden. Seeds scatter with every thought you allow. Some are weeds of fear, resentment, self-doubt. Others are seeds of courage, clarity, and vision. The soil does not discriminate. It accepts whatever is sown. And in the silence of unconsciousness, those seeds germinate. When you awaken, you believe you are starting fresh, but in truth, you are stepping into the harvest of what you planted the night before. This is why awareness is everything. This is why there is no going back. Once you realize that your inner world constructs the outer, you cannot unsee it. Thus, the core message becomes clear. Time is irreversible. Thought is creative. Transitions are sacred. Responsibility is freedom, and permanence is illusion. Together, they form the foundation of the phrase. To dismiss them is to continue wandering half-blind. To embrace them is to walk into a life of deliberate authorship. Before you sleep tonight, let this be the understanding. Every moment you live is already written into eternity. Every thought you hold becomes a brick in the architecture of your destiny, and every transition you pass through is a gate to a deeper truth. To know this is to awaken. To ignore it is to surrender yourself to unconscious drift, and there is no going back from awakening. When philosophy alone is not enough to pierce the walls of the mind, stories arrive to carry truth into the heart. They are not mere entertainments. They are vessels of meaning, symbols cloaked in imagery that reveal what reason often resists. To understand before you sleep tonight, understand this: no going back. We must enter the realm of allegory, where truth dresses itself in metaphor and becomes unforgettable. Consider the story of the lantern maker. In a small, forgotten village, he worked endlessly, shaping fragile lanterns out of paper and wood, each designed to carry light across the dark river that separated the living from the unknown. People would come to him each evening, asking for lanterns to set afloat, believing that their prayers and intentions would ride the light across the waters. One night, a traveler asked the lantern maker if he could reuse an old lantern from the previous year. The lantern maker only shook his head and said, "Once a lantern has been released, it belongs to the river. You cannot call it back. You can only build another, and hope its light will carry farther." In this story lies the essence of life. Once a word is spoken, once a choice is made, once a moment passes, it floats downstream. You cannot retrieve it. There is no going back. But you can shape the lantern of now, with greater care, with greater intention, so that its glow carries farther into the unknown. Or imagine the tale of the dream weaver. In a hidden chamber between night and dawn, she gathers the fragments of human thought and spins them into tapestries of tomorrow. Every sigh, every whisper, every unspoken worry is a thread. Most people never notice her work, assuming dreams are random accidents. But the truth is, she is weaving what their unconscious delivers. One night, a restless man, bitter from years of resentment, storms into her chamber, demanding to see why his life feels heavy and misaligned. The dream weaver shows him the tapestry she has been weaving, thread after thread of anger, envy, and complaint. The man falls silent. "But I thought those were only thoughts," he says. The dream weaver answers, "Thoughts are not harmless. They are the loom of existence. What you give me, I must weave." The man leaves, knowing there is no undoing what has been woven. The only path is to change the threads he hands over. The lesson here is undeniable. Your nightly descent into sleep is not idle, it is the delivery of threads to the weaver, who cannot erase but only continue. No going back, only conscious choosing forward. Another narrative emerges from nature itself, the river and the stone. A young seeker once approached a sage by the river and asked why life felt like it slipped from his grasp, no matter how tightly he held on to the past. The sage picked up a smooth stone from the riverbed and handed it to him. "This stone the sage said, was once jagged, sharp, and unshaped, but years of current have smoothed it. The river never asked the stone's permission. It simply moved forward, carrying sand and water to wear it down. So too with time, you may fight it, but the current shapes you nonetheless, and every sharp edge you create today will someday be smoothed, though you cannot retrieve what has been carried away. The river does not flow backward. The seeker understood then that resistance was futile, but awareness was powerful. To surrender to the river is not weakness, it is wisdom. To plant intention in its flow is to guide what is carried downstream. The imagery of the phoenix also rises to meet this truth. The mythical bird that burns itself to ash and is reborn anew carries within it the reminder that endings are beginnings, that sleep is a nighty fire through which you pass. But here is the nuance most miss. The phoenix does not return to its old form. It is reborn, yes, but never the same as before. It does not go back, it transforms, and so do you. Each night you surrender to sleep, a part of you dissolves, a version of you dies, and the you that awakens is not identical. You cannot re-inhabit the exact self of yesterday. Once the ashes have fallen, the wings that rise are new. These symbolic narratives are not distant myths, they mirror your own life each evening. You are the lantern maker, releasing today into the river of time. You are the dream weaver, delivering threads for tomorrow's tapestry. You are the stone in the river, shaped by forces that never pause. And you are the phoenix, dying and awakening with each night and dawn. To forget this is to wander blind in a world that is sculpting you regardless. To remember it is to step into conscious authorship of the journey. Before you sleep tonight, hold these symbols close. Ask yourself, what lantern am I crafting for release into the river? What threads am I handing the weaver? What edges of stone am I leaving for the current to shape? What ashes am I ready to rise from? For once these things are set in motion, there is no reversing them. The stories remind us not to despair at the truth of irreversibility, but to awaken to its power. No going back does not mean loss, it means forward is the only canvas on which you may paint. Though to live, symbolically, is to live consciously, to see your existence not as random fragments but as myth in motion. And when you grasp that your ordinary life is woven with these timeless allegories, you begin to understand the phrase in its full weight. Sleep is not just rest, it is participation in the eternal cycle of lanterns released, tapestries woven, rivers shaping, phoenixes reborn. Once you see this, once you feel the pulse of these symbols in your own chest, you cannot return to the blindness of dismissal. The veil is lifted, and it will not fall again. Philosophy and metaphor stir the soul, but unless they take root in daily life, they risk dissolving into the abstract. The phrase, before you sleep tonight, understand this, no going back only fulfills its meaning when it shapes how you live, when it alters the way you approach your evenings, your mornings, and the hours that fill the space between. The bridge from cosmic truth to lived reality is where transformation unfolds. Begin with the nightly ritual itself. For most, the hours before sleep are saturated with noise. Screens glow late into the night, minds churn with unfinished conversations, regrets, or trivial distractions. But when you recognize that what you carry into sleep becomes the blueprint of your tomorrow, the careless habits of those final hours reveal their danger. Imagine instead approaching sleep as a sacred threshold, a gatekeeper moment that deserves reverence. To do this requires no grand ceremony, only intention. It might mean silencing the world for a while, dimming the lights, letting your breathing deepen, and choosing one thought to plant as the seed of your tomorrow. It might be a vision of who you wish to become, a word of gratitude for what you already hold, or a quiet affirmation of trust. This small act is not symbolic, it is literal creation. The mind receives its final imprint of the day and begins weaving it into your reality. This awareness also changes how you speak and act throughout the day. If there is no going back, then every word exchanged matters. The sharp remark made in frustration cannot be retracted, though forgiveness may soften its edge. The kindness withheld cannot be offered retroactively, though new kindness may replace it. To live with the knowledge that time only moves forward is to choose more carefully. It is to hold silence before speaking, to pause before reacting, to recognize that each moment is a one-way gate into eternity. In practical terms, this means training yourself to see transitions not as passive intervals, but as opportunities. The morning is not merely a start, It is the harvest of last night's seeds. The evening is not merely an ending, it is the planting ground for what comes next. Even the smallest choices ripple. To scroll in resentment before bed is to feed the dream weaver with threads of bitterness. To end the day with a single act of gratitude is to hand her gold and light. When you understand this, daily life becomes less casual. It becomes deliberate. Another real-world implication emerges in the way you handle regret. Regret is the ghost of wishing you could go back. But once you understand that there is no going back, regret loses its teeth. You see that regret is not a doorway to the past, but a mirror for the present. The sting of what cannot be undone transforms into the clarity of what you can do now. Instead of drowning in the impossibility of retrieval, you begin asking, what lantern can I craft today? What thread can I deliver tonight? What ashes am I willing to rise from tomorrow? In this way, regret is not poison but fuel. If used wisely, the philosophy also reshapes ambition and vision. Too many people postpone their dreams with the illusion of infinite tomorrows. They say they will begin when circumstances align, when fear lessens, when they feel ready. But once you see clearly that life only moves forward, that the self you were yesterday is already gone, the urgency of now becomes undeniable. There will never be a perfect moment. There will only be this one, unrepeatable, irreplaceable. To understand this is to take steps now, however small, knowing that delay is a silent thief. Even relationships transform under this light. How often do we assume the people around us will be there tomorrow, unchanged, waiting for us to express what we withheld? But people, like moments, are in flux. Each day, they change. Each day, so do you. To live with awareness of no going back is to speak truth more freely, to love more openly, to apologize when needed, to affirm when possible. Because once a person has drifted, once words have remained unsaid, there is no return to the exact constellation that was. Presence becomes precious because it is unrepeatable. On a broader scale, this principle also challenges the way we engage with society. Entire cultures drift in patterns of unconscious repetition, clinging to outdated ways as though permanence could be preserved. But no civilization escapes the river's current. The choices made today, how we treat the earth, how we handle conflict, how we nurture or neglect the vulnerable, cannot be undone tomorrow. The seeds are sown now, and the harvest will be inevitable. If individuals awaken to their own responsibility, they also awaken to their collective power. The phrase "before you sleep tonight" extends beyond personal life. It is a call to humanity to realize that delay and ignorance plant futures that cannot be retrieved. Perhaps the most practical integration lies in learning to see sleep itself differently. Instead of collapsing into unconsciousness, imagine shaping a nightly ritual of awareness, closing the day with reflection, choosing which thoughts to release, and selecting the ones worth carrying into the silence. This is not superstition, but psychology. Neuroscience has shown that the mind consolidates memory and belief during sleep. Spiritual traditions have known for centuries that the final thought before slumber covers the entire journey of the night. To dismiss this is to squander the most accessible tool of transformation. To embrace it is to become an architect of your own subconscious. And so, the phrase "before you sleep tonight," understand this becomes less of a poetic reflection and more of a practical instruction. It reminds you that no moment is neutral, no thought is disposable, no day is without consequence. And yet, this is not a burden but a liberation. For if every moment carries weight, then every moment also carries possibility. You are not chained to yesterday, because yesterday cannot be retrieved. You are not a prisoner of tomorrow, because it has not yet arrived. You are only alive now, in this breath, with the power to choose how you will meet the threshold of sleep, and what you will hand over to the dream-weaver. The real world implication is this: live as if you are sculpting eternity with each passing thought, because in a very real sense, you are. This is what it means to understand before you sleep tonight. This is what it means to accept there is no going back. So here you are, standing at the edge of another night, carrying the weight of this revelation. There is no going back. The phrase that has guided us "before you sleep tonight," understand this, is no longer just words. It has unfolded into a mirror, a lantern, a key. What you do with it now will decide the shape of your tomorrow. You have seen that time is irreversible, that every thought and choice ripples outward beyond your sight. You have understood that sleep is not an ending but a passage, a nightly death and rebirth, where the seeds of your inner world are planted in the soil of the unconscious. You have glimpsed, through story and symbol, that you are the lantern maker, the dream weaver, the stone in the river, the phoenix in the fire. You have felt the weight of responsibility, the tenderness of impermanence, the possibility of authorship, and now, there is only one question left. What will you carry across the threshold of tonight? The call is not to perfection, but to awareness. Awareness that you cannot reclaim yesterday, but you can create tomorrow. Awareness that every moment is sacred because it is unrepeatable. Awareness that what you hand to sleep tonight will rise with you at dawn. To live with this consciousness is to stop drifting, to stop postponing, to stop surrendering your power to inertia. It is to begin living with deliberate authorship, sculpting your destiny in the quiet sanctuary of your own thoughts. Transformation does not come with thunder. It comes in the silence of a single choice. To close your day with gratitude instead of bitterness, to release resentment and plant forgiveness, to silence the noise and listen to the stillness of your own heart, to speak love instead of withholding it, to act now instead of waiting for some elusive tomorrow. This is not a theory, it is the practice of life itself. There will be no going back. Once you embrace this, the veil of ignorance cannot be lowered again. You cannot return to the illusion that your thoughts are idle, that your actions vanish, that your days can be carelessly spent. You now know too much. And though that may feel heavy, it is also the most liberating truth you will ever hold. For once you realize that every moment matters, you awaken to the boundless possibility hidden inside each one. So tonight, when you lay your head upon the pillow, do not surrender to sleep carelessly. Pause, reflect, choose. What is the final imprint you will carry into the silence? What seed will you plant in the soil of your subconscious? What lantern will you release into the river of time? Understand this, the you who awakens tomorrow will be shaped by what you decide in these last moments of awareness. That is the power you hold. That is the point of no return. And beyond tonight. Let this awareness guide you in every transition, every conversation, every heartbeat. Live as if each act echoes into eternity, because it does. Live as if each breath is the brushstroke of your destiny, because it is. Live as if the world is being built through you, thought by thought, word by word, choice by choice, because it is. Before you sleep tonight, carry this with you. You are not a passive traveler. You are the architect, the dreamer, the builder, the phoenix rising. And once you awaken to that truth, there is no going back. So close your eyes, but not in ignorance. Close them in reverence. Step into sleep, not as a wanderer, but as a creator. For tomorrow waits, not as something random, but as something you will shape. And in that knowing, let your final thought tonight be a seed worthy of eternity. This is your call. This is your awakening. There is no going back.